Good evening and welcome to Undoing I Do with Stephanie and a Day. I'm Stephanie Hunnell, the owner of the Hunnell Law Group in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and your co-host for this evening.
And I am Adela La Dow, the owner of the law offices of Adela La Dow in Staten Island, New York. Hello, happy Thursday again from a long hiatus. Steph and I
Happy
have been doing
Thursday.
mad stuff behind the scenes.
We are joined by a guest tonight,
We are
John
none
Knocklinger.
other than the illustrious John Knocklinger,
Hello,
divorce
hello.
coach to all the men's in them.
Host of the podcast How to Get Divorced Without Getting Screwed.
I love the title, by the way.
Me
I do
too.
too. I
You
hope
want to tell
hopefully
us?
hopefully it actually works so people aren't getting screwed, but we'll see.
Yeah, people don't understand. John is a longtime supporter of our show. Big up to you, John. Thank you so much for always supporting and always watching us and coming up with the crazy ass comments that keep us going. But you have delved into this area of divorce coaching and you've been helping so many men get their lives right when divorce rears its ugly head to their, into their lives, or its good head into their lives, because it doesn't have to be ugly.
Yeah. I mean, it's really something that, as you both know, I really didn't ever like being a divorce attorney. But I did find that helping men through divorce, because I feel like men more than women don't really reach out to their support groups. They don't reach out to their friends. They don't go to therapists. Like a lot of men just, suffer in silence during divorce. So there was always a need for it. And all the divorce coaches out there, I mean, if you Google anything, guys, you're going to see mostly women doing it. And you're going to see a lot of female focused websites. So I saw that and I was like, well, men aren't going to really respond to that. They need somebody who is actually talking to them as a man to even be open to the idea of this.
So what does a divorce coach do?
I'm gonna tell you guys what I do, but really a divorce coach is there to fill in the gap
Hey, Rich.
between basically whenever you hire the attorney to the end of the case, and they're going to fill in the gaps of what the attorney isn't really going to do for you, or if you don't have an attorney at all, because even though I'm speaking to two incredible attorneys, not everyone needs an attorney to go through a divorce. There's all kinds of other ways to get divorced. Some people just need a mediator. But whatever the case is, I get people who primarily are at that point where they don't understand why this is happening to them. And they're in this emotional turmoil of, I don't understand why I'm getting divorced. Like, I did nothing wrong. I don't understand why I'm getting divorced. And as you both know, if you don't get a handle on that emotional part of the why is this happening to me, it's almost impossible to get to a place where you can get divorced and you can agree to something, because you're constantly thinking like, well, I shouldn't have to do this because this shouldn't be happening to me. I didn't do anything wrong. Or people just get caught up in this whirlwind of, they just don't know how to move forward. Or even worse, my wife cheated on me, so why should I have to give her anything? I mean, it's her fault. She's the one that did this to me. And their attorneys can tell them time and time again, it doesn't matter. And so anyway, so I step in and help them understand. I help them understand what's happening by providing emotional and motivational support. I'm not a mental health professional, so I don't do it from that perspective. I do it from a perspective of, I've been doing divorce and family law for almost 20 years. I'm a good listener. I'm a good friend to a lot of people. And really, I'm just there to be a shoulder to cry on in a lot of cases. Because I say a lot of times, a lot of men, when I see them, I'm pretty sure I'm the first person they've cried to in a very long time. But the way that I kind of look at divorce coaching, because I'm talking to men, is I always talk about it like a game plan. Like we're in a football game or a basketball game. The coach is just there to help you construct the play. Like, what is it we're going to do? What's the divorce process going to be? Are we going to do mediation? Are we going to do collaborative divorce? Are you going to go into litigation? What kind of attorney do you need? Like, put the game plan together. and then sort of sit back and watch you sort of execute it. And whenever you don't execute it the way we said we were going to execute it, to be there to bring you back to the sideline, chew your head off and send you back into the game trying to get to the finish. And that's, I feel like when guys hear it like that we're creating the game plan, and your attorney is part of the game plan. Your attorney is not the one creating the game plan. Your attorney is part of that game plan. So once I am able to create the game plan for them, we choose the process, we deal with the why is this happening to me, because I have to deal with that first always. Then we walk through the path. We go through all the issues, your children in conflict. As you both know, there's going to be a lot of things that happen during divorce where you're going to have conflicts with your co-parent that maybe aren't legal in nature. It could be like, how do I draft this text? Or I got this nasty text, how do I respond to it? Or I got this email, how do I respond to it? Most people don't want to pay their attorney, $350, $400, $300, whatever it is per hour to ask for that kind of advice when it really isn't going to be part of the legal process. So it's really, I provide a sounding board for them that's cheaper than your attorney. Also, I'm only there to listen to you from an emotional perspective. So I'm not there to even deal with law. Even though people ask me legal questions all the time and I have to tell them, go talk to your attorney about it. It's really just there to be, I'm here to be a sounding board. And I will tell you, a big part of what I do as a divorce attorney is help people understand why their marriage didn't work. Like, sit back and take personal responsibility of the fact that it wasn't just your spouse's fault. You did things too, so that I can help set people up for post-divorce life. And so, I went through a lot of things, but that's really what it is. Create the game plan, go through all of those sort of parts of this, and and along the way, help you understand how to communicate a little bit better. Try to help you understand that you need to not be a hothead. You need to not have outbursts in court. You need to not have outbursts in mediation offices. Help you get ready for negotiating, understanding compromise, and that you're going to have to make the tough decisions. Because a lot of people, a lot of attorneys talk to their clients and they just say, this is what you need to do.
Right.
The client isn't really all the time ready to hear that. So I kind of prepare them to hear those things so that they're ready to do the compromise whenever their attorney tells them to do that. So,
yeah, a lot of attorneys talk at their clients, and I guess it's just because of the way we're trained. Again, we're not trained as mental health professionals, and a lot of attorneys don't have a lot of finesse either when they're talking to their clients. And I think it's so important, especially representing men. And, the majority of my clients are men, even though I represent women, the majority of my clients are men. I think it's very important for people to realize that men have fear too. The society, ingrains men to, be macho, be this, you're the caretaker. Husband essentially means caretaker, steward, right? But who's there to take care of you? And so a lot of men get into the process of, having a divorce served upon them, and they literally fall apart in ways that you would not expect a man, right? And I'm doing air quotes, you guys can't see, but a man to fall apart in. And your attorney can't help you with that, but a divorce coach, I believe, really can, because getting through that woe is me and why is this happening is monumental to making sure that your divorce goes more smoothly. Because if you can't get through that, you will be stuck in the mud and you won't even realize it. You won't even realize that you are causing a lot of the strife and turmoil in your divorce process that may not need to be there.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, I was going to say, on the flip side of that also, I see a lot of men that want to give up too much because they're the man and they were the supporter, and I want to give this. And, we end up having to talk them down from a lot of things. And I think a divorce coach can help absolutely get over that fear of, you're allowed to have what's fair for yourself also. Right. You're allowed to have a life after this divorce process, even if they're the ones that cheated, because there's a lot of guilt that goes into that. There's a lot of, machismo attitude about making sure that I'm paying everything for my kids. And then they end up agreeing to too much.
Yeah. How do you deal with that, John? Like, how do you, if you have a man who's come to you, and he's had the insight enough to come to you, because he realizes that he does need the support. How do you deal with that guy who feels so much guilt because maybe they do feel as though the marriage breakdown was their fault, even though we know that, cheating is more of a consequence than the actual issue usually. But how do you deal with that guy who wants to give up the entire farm, right? Because they have that guilt.
Yeah. So what's interesting about that is obviously we have to deal with the why is the divorce happening, and we do go into that a little bit. But there's an underlying current with men, and it's that they've all been ingrained to believe that regardless of whether it's their fault or not, they're going to get screwed. They all believe it, every single one. And I work with men all over the country. I have a couple outside of the United States as well. So really, this has nothing to do with any state specific anything. So this is everywhere. And as we know, there are other states where men are a little bit behind the 8 ball than New Jersey, where we currently are, or New York, where you also practice today. And, so basically, you just have to get them to understand. Obviously, there's children and money. And with children, they almost always assume that they're not going to, my wife's going to get custody automatically. And once I sit down and I have them go through like the relationship they have with their children, and I help them understand that, the children aren't going through the divorce, you and your wife are. So regardless of why you're getting divorced, the children should be with both of you. We go through all of that. We go through those exercises. But really, whenever they sit back and they realize, I don't ever want anyone to think that it's okay to cheat and that, oh, I cheated and it's okay and that's it. But I do go into the, what else was going on in your marriage? You didn't just like if someone went out and cheated, you didn't just go out and cheat in a vacuum because you're, this person who just wanted to cheat. Something wasn't happening in the relationship. Maybe it was bad for a long time and you looked for something somewhere else. That's not it. Be that as it may, I just try to get them to understand that regardless of the why, and the why is important because, again, what I said a second ago is I don't want them to make the same mistakes again. Their next relationship, because we all know everyone tends to be attracted to the same people. So they get out of one marriage and they find someone else that was just like their last relationship. So, so understanding what it is you did or didn't do and helping. So once people start to understand that, they get away from that guilt. They really do. Once they sort of understand all that, they get away from the guilt and they really start to think about, okay, I do deserve fairness. I do deserve to not give up more money than I really should. And there's being generous and there's giving everything away. We all know that there's a line between the two. But usually I will tell you, money wise, most men are much more willing to stand the line a little bit more, but it's for children where I see them give up a lot. Usually if they think there's going to be a custody fight, they're just like, you know what, forget it. And, and I got to tell you, I'm seeing more and more where men are really more of a primary caretaker than the mothers are. And so anyway, so that's really what it's all about. But get into that really core of the why, making them talk. I just sit back there. If I talk to someone for an hour, they talk for 45 minutes at least. And I just sit back and I listen, take notes, just kind of, I sometimes feel like I'm almost like a therapist, but I'm really not. Because what I'm doing is I'm creating my notes so that 3 months later, when I'm still talking to them, I go back and I'm like, oh, remember when we were talking about X, Y, and Z? Yeah. Oh, so yeah, but that's really how I deal with that. And once I work with them for about a month or two, they don't have that guilt anymore. And they're ready to be fair and compromise, but also do what's best for them and their children.
Yeah.
And on the issue of custody, do you have like a game plan for each person to say these are the steps you should take in advance of your divorce, or in order to make sure that you have the best possible outcome for you and for the kids?
Yeah, so I created this course called the Men's Preparation Boot Camp, and basically it walks them through like steps they can do on each of these sorts of things. But I also work with people one-on-one, and in terms of preparing for the custody part of this, we do things that for the three of us that have been doing divorce for so long sound just you almost want to smile, but it's things that most men like are so bad at. And I'm going to give you great examples. Who's the children's teacher? Who's the children's principal? Who's their doctor? Who are your children's best friends? Who are your children's best friends' parents? Like right. Just things that are so basic, and they may know who they are kind of, but like they can't think of the name right off the top of their head. Yeah. I tell them those are like low-hanging fruit. Like you never want to be in a situation where your wife says he doesn't even want them. He doesn't even know who their best friend is. You just never want to do that. So I just get them to make sure they have a foundation of all the facts of their children. What are their children's favorite foods? What do they like to do at night? Which it's funny, like sometimes in a marriage when you're like busy, sometimes you see it, but it doesn't register in your head the same way. Yeah. So I make them think about it. Okay, come on. You think about it in your head. What do your children ask to eat the most? Because men just don't recall that kind of information the way that mothers do. They just don't. And so I try to get that foundation. So that's one of the first things I do with every single guy.
But hey, John, you know what? Do you know what? I mean, as a wife and a mom, do you know that you could actually save marriages by having this? You gotta package it. You might want to package this a different way. Because and I'm a divorce lawyer. Yes, I make my money off of people getting divorced, but hey, I like marriage, and I think I'm a romantic at heart. You might actually save some marriages with giving this advice, because that stuff frustrates the heck out of moms.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does, and most men don't really understand like why is it so important that I know all this stuff. It's like. They're like, are you making me memorize all of this? I'm like, no, you should. If you want your children to be with you a lot, this is stuff you need to know. Like you need to know your children's best friend is, Adam, and here's who Adam's parents are, and here's Adam's parents' phone numbers. Like you need to know all this information, or your children shouldn't be around you all the time, because like you're going to cause problems for them, because you're not going to have access to all the information you need to be the kind of parent that you need to be if you want to be around them as much.
Practically speaking, that's all true, but also from a divorce attorney litigation standpoint, the first thing we do when we have a custody fight is we send out this big stack of interrogatories, which are questions about custody, day-to-day activities, who's your best friend. Those are literally questions that we ask to see if the other person knows the answer to.
So, by the way, shout out to New York State, because those types of interrogatories are not permitted in the first and second department. So if you're in Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Staten Island, Queens, downstate, yeah, we don't do that. But upstate is another story. You can do discovery on custody related issues and parenting issues. Yeah, so we have these fun moments of actually getting people on the stand. See, because once you've prepared with your interrogatories and everything, now you're like, oh, wait, hold on. I have to remember Becky Sue's teacher's name. Okay. Her name is Mrs. Marshmallow, whatever it is. I know it now. So you're not going to trick me on the stand. In New York, downstate again, we will completely trick you on the stand. You will not know who the kid's pediatrician is, and nobody would have prepared you in advance for that. And so you really have to be careful if you're getting divorced in those areas. Yeah, you will kind of sort of be in a strange place. And look, the kids want to be able to say, okay, I know that daddy has my Squishmallow or whatever it is. My daughter's a big fan of these Squishmallows, and she takes them everywhere she goes. You need to know she prefers that one if she's sad. She wants a chamomile bath. You got to know these types of things. And you know what, John? Guys get into a really strange place when it comes to things like that. I mentioned the word bath. You got to be so careful with your male clients who want to have primary custody of kids, especially the little girls, because some of these moms start playing games with situations. Oh, he gave my daughter a bath. Okay, so he's now a single father. I don't know who else is going to give your 5-year-old a bath. Do we want the 5-year-old in the tub, splashing around in the water, and now we're going to have a different kind of accident? You know, so how do you counsel men who are dealing with moms who are retaliatory in that manner?
There was a big surge in that last year. I saw a lot of cases where
Yep.
those allegations were made, and it was ugly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I do several different things. I mean, obviously, I have an 8-year-old daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll tell you right now, she still wants me to help her take baths and take showers.
It's
And
gonna change. It's gonna change.
I know, and I'm waiting for it a day. I'm waiting for
My
it.
daughter's at the same age, and
Um,
she's all about the privacy. And I had to tell her today,
mm-mm.
"Mommy has the same parts as you. I don't know what we're doing. What are we doing?"
Oh no, like privacy when we're using the bathroom,
Yeah.
but not when we're bathing. So we're
Yeah.
almost there. But it's funny because if I hadn't been a divorce attorney, it wouldn't even register to me that oh my God, should I be doing this? Like, and the second I had that thought, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm a parent. Like, I'm just helping my child bathe. I mean, there's
Right.
nothing wrong with it. So I just remind guys, listen, just because you're a man doesn't mean that you can't help your girl bathe. I mean, I tell them, like, is there anything wrong with your mother helping your little boy bathe? I mean, if it's the only concept is that we have different parts, I mean, give me a break.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I just tell them more communication, more communication. Never let your child be the one to tell the other parent anything. So if
Yeah.
if you have one of those parents on the other side, just be upfront. I helped our daughter take a bath last night. And just throw it in an email, throw it in a text message, and just be very matters of fact about it, because if little Susie tells mom, something, then it's going to blow out of proportion. And even if mom like questions her about it, you're not hiding anything. You've explained what's going on. I really am big on documenting. Because another thing I do,
Mm-hmm.
and I hate I have to do this, but another thing I do with men in particular is I help them develop strategies to prevent bogus domestic violence claims as well. So
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually, like, in my boot camp, there are 4 sections. One whole section is on protecting yourself. I call it protecting your freedom, but it's really protecting yourself and all of the different things that you need to really be aware of, because as we know, you could be married to someone for 20 years and not have any idea that they are capable of using those tactics against you. So I'm very big on that, but it kind of goes to this whole concept of using these things that really aren't wrong to try to get an upper hand in your divorce, and really document without emotional content. So I can't tell you, every day I read a lot of emails from guys who just want me to look at it before they press send, because I just want to make
Right.
sure it's facts, and only facts, and no emotional content whatsoever. I'm like, get rid of the
Yeah.
adjectives and the adverbs. I don't want to hear, just
Yes.
Yes.
yeah.
That's the
Yes. It's
best
so
advice.
true. The best advice. Sanitize the heck out of your emails, people. Posts on Facebook, all of this stuff. And people, you know, they don't understand, because they might say something that to them seems like, well, it's common to, of course I did blah blah blah. But when the other person's reading it, all they're reading is flip, right? And so sanitize your emails, your messages as much as possible. That goes such a long way. One of the things that Stephanie said really does hit home for me, because I have so many husbands who are so afraid to fight for their kids, to the point where I remember one case, my client said to me, my wife is an alcoholic. And I said, well, look, we can't let these kids stay with her. That to me is a non-option, right? And he said, yeah, but it's so expensive. I said, sir, I would get on the pole. I would get on the pole if I had to get this money, if it meant that my kid wasn't going to be with an alcoholic, right? Who didn't even recognize that they were an alcoholic.
Mhm.
Sometimes you gotta sacrifice these concerns, and they're not little, but these major concerns, for the betterment of your kid. Because what's the alternative? That's what I say to my clients. What is the alternative?
And how often have we seen where we have to try to undo an agreement that was made because they didn't want to fight for whatever they thought was the appropriate amount of time, the appropriate custody
Right.
arrangement at the time, because they thought, all right, if I do it later, they'll calm down, they'll be more mellow. I had one of my cases, it's been a years, at least a decade-long fight with regard to supervised visitation because that he agreed to, and all because he thought, you know what? Let's cool down. I don't want to spend the money now. She'll calm down later. We'll be able to work it out later on. No, you have to do it at the time.
Gotta do it now.
Yeah, and
What do
a
you
lot of
think?
these guys, I have to remind them that, you know, a lot of them are easily manipulated too, and that's the other thing that I really work with them on is don't be manipulated. You know, like by what you just said, Stephanie. Oh, she'll calm down in the future. I'm like, that's you were manipulated to believe that because someone's trying to get what you want. But I will tell you, we have a case in my law firm where the divorce happened 10 years ago. And there was allegations that the wife was an alcoholic, like passing out at 10 a.m. on Saturdays and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he was scared, I think. He ended up agreeing to a 50-50 time sharing. So it wasn't anything 50-50. Here we are 10 years later. One of the children has a serious substance abuse problem.
Oh my gosh.
And then the now ex-wife, who's married to somebody new, there had to be this whole intervention because she drunk one night, took out a knife and chased her new husband around the house.
Oh my
ACT&T got
gosh.
involved. All this stuff is going on. These kids are all caught in the crossfire, but she was an alcoholic this whole time. And and I really wish this guy who's very, very nice, I just wish he had, back then just said, listen, I'm going to fight.
Right.
I'm going to make sure these kids are with me. And I'm not blaming him because, there's a lot of men do this. But, we have to remember, it's not just, there's no winning or losing in divorce. It's really about protecting your kids. And if one parent has a problem, a serious problem, you're not just trying to fight that parent. You're trying to help your children. And I think once you realize, I'm helping my kids here, they're going to be around me. Seriously, we all know if you're around someone with a substance abuse problem, kids are more likely to get it themselves. Think about your kids. Let's think about our kids.
Right.
And there's so many other codependent issues too that go along with being around somebody with substance abuse. Not only that you can more likely to have a substance abuse issue yourself, but also like these codependency issues with future relationships.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And in that case that I was talking about where my client's wife was an alcoholic, he ended up calling me 2 years later to tell me that he needed representation because the wife had lost her apartment for non-payment of rent because she was an addict, and the children were living in a shelter.
Oh,
the children were living in a shelter. 2 little girls living in a shelter. And what people really need to understand is that what men really need to understand is that, look, sure, your divorce lawyer makes money by telling you to fight if you actually fight, right? Sure, they make money. But most of us are not here telling you to fight a fight that is meritless just because we want to get a buck. If you're in my office and I start telling you, look, we need to look at forensics, we need to look at this, we need to look at the other, it's because there's a major problem here. And I've been doing this for well over almost 2 decades. And I've seen it. I've been there. I've seen it. Like Stephanie was saying, I've seen the kids end up on drugs. I've seen the kids, who are promiscuous and in all of these relationships that they don't need to be in. We've seen it, and we're telling you because we're trying to help you save your kid from that future. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's something they just really, people just need, men and women need to really recognize that.
Yeah.
The funniest thing in consultations is where someone will tell you their husband or their wife's an alcoholic or has a drug problem or whatever. And you ask them what kind of parenting plan they want. And it always involves overnights with that person. And you're like, what is going on here? You just told me this person is horrible. But they're like, well, that's why he shouldn't have 50-50 time. He should just have every other weekend. I'm like, oh, yeah, because someone who's a raging alcoholic can't do damage to children over a weekend.
Over the weekend. Isn't that the high time? Hello.
So you have to question whether or not that's actually going on when you hear that kind of stuff.
Now that's true. And you hate being in that position. I hate saying to somebody, okay, so is this real? But I'm going to ask you, is this real? And by the way, we talked about this on your show, John. please do not come into our offices saying that the person is a cocaine addict if you did cocaine with them last week. No, don't do it. Come up with some Nancy Reagan, just say no. And I mean, if that was your former lifestyle, you might want to start walking away from that.
Oh, Ade, you've got to do one of those things on social media where it's just you with like a quote. That just quote there on Instagram. That is
that
I love it.
I'll have to do that. I'll take you up on that, John.
You should. That is great. That's great, but it's so true. So
It's
true.
We've all had those cases. Like, oh, but he did it with me last night. I don't know what you're.
I don't know what he's talking
about. He's a raging alcoholic, but what I'm not going to tell you is he drank 2 bottles and so did I.
Right. That tequila was hitting just right. Oh my goodness. So how do men get in touch with you, John?
So I have a website, thedivorceshield.com. But the place where I really want to send people now is I created a online community. It's called mensdivorcenetwork.com. And it is basically like Facebook, but it's not on Facebook because I know people want a little bit more privacy now. So it's a site where there are hundreds of men now, and it's an interactive. People will ask questions. I'm going through this. Everyone sort of chimes in. It's really great. Men are meeting each other from all over the country. You can have a little profile, your picture, who your kids are. It's really awesome. I love it. And I go on there all the time and just answer questions. I put up little videos, what's the hardest thing that's going through your divorce right now? What do you need help with? And we sort of all help each other out. And I love it. It makes me feel so good just having that platform for people. And there's nothing. I mean, I'm astounded that there wasn't more for men. I really, to this day, don't understand it because there's such a need. Because the second I started doing this, I didn't really have to try that hard to get people from all over the place wanting this information. So yeah, if you're going through a divorce or you feel like you just need help, go to mensdivorcenetwork.com. It is free.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, totally free. It's you just sign up. And it's private. No one outside the site can see who's in it. I mean, once you're in it, you can see everyone that's in it, but anyone outside the site can't see who's in it. And it's just a great sounding board for anything you're going through. So at a minimum, if you're a man going through a divorce, consider just coming over there. So at least you can interact with other guys that are going through this too. So you'll see, guess what? Everything you're going through, there's hundreds of men out there that are going through it too. And together, we can figure out ways to get you through this process.
Yep. Don't be afraid to get the support that you need.
Mm-hmm.
No. And thank you for joining us, John. I appreciate it. And if you need the resources, go to mensdivorcenetwork.com. And then I'm going to post a link, if you wouldn't mind sending it to me, of the men's preparation boot camp as well.
Sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so the course is a live recorded course, or what is it?
Yeah, so it's 4 segments. So we teach you how to protect your kids, protect your money, protect your freedom, and protect your sanity. So you actually go through like all the financial issues, all your kid issues, the freedom. We talked about that earlier, preventing both domestic violence claims. And then I spend an entire section on mindset. And it's all mindset and preparing you for the process, but also making you look to the future. Because, I think all of us, it's like planning a vacation. When you plan that vacation, like 3 months from now or 4 months from now, you always have something to look forward to. And so I want men to stop thinking about where they are now, always think about where they're going to be. And I always find that it helps them get through those hard parts when they're always going towards a goal. Otherwise, you're just slapping those balls in front of your face as opposed to actually seeing, the forest from the trees. I guess that's a good way of saying it.
Right.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you, John.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a good night. And I'll post that link again for the boot camp.
Awesome.
Thanks for watching. Guys. Don't forget to like and share with your friends and anyone else who may need the information. Good night.
Good night.